first to help combat the drought in the region, the Chinese embassy and Chinese firms in Kenya have donated food aid worth $160,000. The donation follows a $2 billion food relief aid from the Chinese government announced last month. CGTN's Robert Nagila has more.
China is scaling up its assistance in food relief aid to Kenya. The Chinese embassy and Chinese firms based in Kenya donated food aid worth $160,000 to areas experiencing severe food shortages as a result of the ongoing drought.
As brothers and sisters, the Chinese people are always standing side by side with the Kenyan people, offering maximum possible support. Last Monday, the Chinese government announced that China will donate 2.25 billion shillings emergency humanitarian food aid to Kenya. And also, the Chinese government, my government, donated 500 million shillings humanitarian aid to Somalia and Sudan refugees who live in Kenya.
Kenya is among several countries in the Horn of Africa, including Somalia and Ethiopia, experiencing a crippling drought. Already, the drought, blamed on the failure of long rains, has put people and livestock at risk. Early this year, President Uhuru Kenyatta declared the drought a national disaster, appealing for assistance from Kenya's development partners.
The drought has affected 2.7 million Kenyans who do not have food from the arid and semi-arid areas, and 300,000 more from the non-ASAM areas.
This latest food donation from Chinese firms comes barely a week after China announced food relief aid consisting of 21,000 metric tons of rice that will feed an estimated 1.4 billion people for at least a month. The consignment is due to arrive in the country in May. But there may be some good news for the country after all. The long-awaited long-rain season appears to be finally underway. And while it may offer some relief, for some farmers it's already too late. Robert Nagila, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
And we continue our discussion now. Alhaji Jallo is still with us in Kampala and Abdi Mohammed is still with us in Mogadishu. Abdi Mohammed, to you, you did mention earlier on, though, that this is not the first time that Somalia is faced with this situation. My question, though, is what has been learnt, though, by the government? Why is this cycle reoccurring without much intervention from the government?
Oh, as we know, the Somali government is rebuilding its institutions, and they have not completely emerged as strong institutions. There are also the political processes that have been occurring in the country, which have diverted attention from the drought. But it was not only the Somalis themselves, but also if you look at the preparedness from the international community wasn't also adequate. We have a repeat of the 2011 experience. If you remember, 2010-2011 drought happened when we were moving from the year 2010 to 11. This drought has happened between 2016 and 17, and that has caused a delay in the response and lack of preparedness from both the national government and the international community. Right. I think now we're picking up, and the response is happening everywhere. The most important element of this response is that it's the Somali communities that are taking care of themselves. We have a huge response both from the diaspora and the residents of the country, the citizens of the country, looking back at their communities that are in the rural areas. And if it wasn't for their quick response, the situation would have been much, much, much worse.
Right.
But
Alhaji Jallo, let me come to you though, because each year we do hear about persistent droughts. I mean, it is not the first time that we are hearing about Kenya, Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Somalia between December and October. There is usually persistent drought. How is it that these governments have been unable to break that cycle of drought? And as you talked about earlier, climatic changes are occurring.
Yeah, well, I think there is a lot of effort being put into the drought situation, but in the sub-region, I think there is a dire need for information gathering, analysis, reporting, and exchange, because it's the information that prepares the people better. But at the same time, there is an effort in the region to address some of these issues, because the FAO is working with the Intergovernmental Authority for Development, IGAD, and they've devised what we call the Horn of Africa Drought Disaster Action Plan for 2017. Now, this action plan addresses the immediate needs of the livestock production group, and also it tries to provide income for food security, and also to provide a means of regional monitoring and coordination. And it is hoped that this particular program, which has been costed at about $281 million US, will actually provide access to water, access to livestock feeds, also provide cash for work, provide disaster-resistant, drought-resistant seeds, and also provide short maturity crops. Now, these are things that can address the drought situation, but without the right information, it becomes a bit difficult, because once the drought hits, all you can do is provide relief. And I think all these countries have provided some degree of relief, because the Kenyan government has allocated a lot of money, millions of dollars, to address the situation. And as we speak, FAO has collaborated with them to provide feeds for livestock and other relief inputs. And in Uganda also, the government has provided money for seeds, and it has also received quite a substantial relief from the government of China, 119,000 bags of rice, and also its own efforts. Now, as I said, once it hits, it's a relief you have to do. But then to avoid it happening again, it's a bit difficult. These are climatic situations, but then you can prepare yourself. And it's the preparedness that the governments are working on now on a sub-regional basis and at national level.